Emily Parker sat cross-legged on her living room floor, her laptop balanced on her knees as she tried to finish a design project. Outside, the city was quiet for once, the occasional hum of a car engine breaking the silence. She had moved into this apartment just 3 weeks ago, seeking solitude after a messy breakup and a hectic year at work. Everything felt peaceful. Too peaceful, maybe. The sudden ring of her phone startled her. She glanced at the screen. An unknown number. Frowning, she hesitated before answering. "Hello?" she said, her voice a little more cautious than she intended. A soft, playful voice whispered back, "Did you lock your door tonight?" Emily blinked. "What? Who is this?" "Just someone curious," the voice replied, light and teasing. Then there was a pause. "You always leave your shoes by the door, don't you?" Emily laughed nervously. "Okay, that's weird. Probably one of my co-workers messing with me. Very funny." She hung up, telling herself it was nothing, just a prank. But even as she returned to her work, a chill ran down her spine. The next morning, Emily's routine was unusually tense. She checked the locks on her door 3 times before leaving for work and kept glancing over her shoulder as she walked to the coffee shop. Nothing felt normal anymore. By late afternoon, the calls began again. This time, the voice was sharper, almost smug. "I saw you at the park today. You were wearing red." Emily froze. Red? She had worn blue. She tried to laugh it off. "Very funny. Whoever this is, stop it." The line went dead. Her fingers shook as she held the phone, staring at the blank screen. There was no number, no trace of who had called. Over the next few days, the calls became a persistent, creeping presence in her life. Every ring of her phone made her heart skip a beat, and it wasn't just the calls. Small, unsettling details began to pile up. A shoe slightly out of place, a chair moved just so, the faint shadow of a figure disappearing behind her curtains. Emily tried to tell herself she was imagining things. One evening, she decided to take a walk to calm her nerves. The streets were dimly lit, the quiet making every sound echo in her ears. That's when she noticed him, a man, standing a few yards away, casually leaning against a lamppost. He didn't look like he belonged there, and yet something about the way he watched her made her stomach twist. By the time she realized he wasn't moving, he had disappeared into the shadows. Returning home, Emily locked every door and window, double-checked the peephole, and sat with her back against the wall, trying to convince herself she was safe. Her phone rang again. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered, gripping the edge of her chair. "Emily," the whisper whispered, calm, soft, deliberate. "I'm closer than you think." Emily's blood ran cold. She dropped the phone. Her apartment felt suddenly smaller, suffocating. Every shadow seemed to twist and stretch in unnatural ways. The next day, Emily confided in her friend Sarah over coffee. "I know it sounds crazy," said Emily, stirring her drink absently, "but I think someone's watching me. I've had these calls and things are moving in my apartment when I'm not there." Sarah's eyes widened. "Emily, that's serious. You need to call the police. Don't try to handle this alone." "I will," Emily said, though a knot of fear twisted in her stomach. She didn't want to admit just how vulnerable she felt. By evening, her apartment had taken on a sinister feel. Every creak of the floorboards, every flicker of light felt like a signal. Then came the knock, soft, deliberate. She froze. Emily peeked through the peephole. No one, just the empty hallway. She exhaled, shaking, but relief was short-lived. Slipped under her door was a small note. In messy, jagged handwriting it read, "Stop pretending you don't know me." Her hands trembled as she picked it up. The words weren't a joke, they were a warning. Her phone rang again, vibrating violently against the hard wood floor. This time, she didn't even want to answer, but something compelled her to pick it up. A voice, calm and almost intimate, whispered, "You shouldn't be scared. I'm just getting started." Emily dropped the phone. Her heart pounded. Every rational thought fled, leaving only raw terror. She could no longer deny it. This wasn't a prank. Someone was in her apartment. Someone was watching her. For the first time since moving in, she felt completely, utterly alone. The city outside was indifferent, the lights glowing softly as if mocking her fear. She crawled onto the sofa, clutching her knees, trying to make herself small, invisible. But deep down, she knew, whatever was coming, there was no escaping it. And as the shadows stretched across the walls, she realized with a jolt of icy certainty, the voice on the phone wasn't just near. It was inside her life now, and she was the target. Emily woke the next morning to the soft hum of her refrigerator, sunlight streaming through the curtains. Normally, she would have welcomed the quiet calm of her apartment, but today, even the familiar sounds felt threatening, like they were amplified by someone watching. She sat on the edge of her bed, phone in hand, hesitant to check the missed calls and messages from last night. She hadn't slept more than 3 hours, the note under her door still crumpled in her palm. The first thing she noticed was a voicemail. Her hands shook as she played it. "I like the way you panic," a distorted voice whispered. "So cute when you think you're safe." Emily's stomach twisted. She deleted it, her fingers trembling. She had to do something. She couldn't live like this. She packed a small bag with essentials, phone charger, wallet, keys, and decided to go to Sarah's for the night. Outside, the city seemed ordinary, almost cruelly normal. People walked dogs, bikers whizzed past, joggers stretched along the sidewalks, but Emily felt eyes on her. Every glance over her shoulder made her flinch. And then she saw him, the man from the park. He was standing on the corner, hands in his pockets, staring. Emily froze. He didn't move when she looked directly at him, just waited. Her heart hammered in her chest. She ducked into a coffee shop, hoping he wouldn't follow. Her nerves were frayed, every shadow a potential threat. At Sarah's apartment, Emily tried to explain. "I'm not imagining this. He's following me. He knows where I go, what I do. I think he's inside my apartment. He's obsessed." Sarah's brow furrowed. "Emily, this is serious. You need the police. I don't care if it seems like overreacting. Someone is trying to scare you. This isn't a joke." Emily wanted to believe her, but deep down she feared that involving the police might only make it worse. The voice on the phone was always one step ahead. It felt personal, calculated. The next day, Emily returned home, trying to reclaim a sense of normalcy. She forced herself to check the locks, the windows, even the security chain. She turned on every light, making the apartment feel artificially safe. She tried to ignore the growing unease as she unpacked groceries. Her phone rang. Unknown number. "I like your new hair," the voice said, calm and intimate. "It suits you, but you should have stayed home today." Emily's fingers flew over the keypad, trying to trace the call. No luck. It came from a burner number, untraceable. Her apartment felt suffocating. She packed a bag again, planning to sleep elsewhere. Days passed, and Emily's life became a calculated routine of avoidance and fear. She began keeping meticulous records of the calls, times, and strange occurrences. She installed small cameras in corners of her apartment, hoping to catch any intruder. She changed her walking routes, avoiding familiar streets. But the calls continued, each one more threatening. "Nice shoes today. I hope you don't trip alone. You look tired. I saw you sleep. Sweet dreams." The last one made her shiver. She had never told anyone about the nights she sometimes napped on her couch. How could he know? One evening, Emily went to the grocery store, trying to pick up necessities and act normal. As she reached for a carton of milk, she felt a presence. Slowly she turned. There he was again, just across the aisle. No masks, no disguises, just calm, unnervingly ordinary. He smiled faintly, but his eyes were cold. Panic surged. Emily clutched her basket and moved quickly to another aisle. He was still there. She tried to confront him. "Who are you? Why are you following me?" He didn't answer, just turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowded aisles. Emily's hands shook so violently she could barely hold her groceries. That night, Emily returned home, exhausted, paranoid, but determined to face the fear. She double-checked the locks, set up cameras, and sat with her phone at her side, waiting for the inevitable. She didn't have to wait long. The phone rang at 11:47 p.m. Unknown number. "I like how organized you are, but organization won't save you. You can't hide from me, Emily." She dropped the phone and rushed to check her apartment. Nothing seemed out of place until she noticed the slightly open window in the living room. It hadn't been open before. Her pulse raced. Someone had been inside. Panic turned into desperate action. She packed a small emergency bag, left a spare key with Sarah, and decided she wouldn't sleep in that apartment again, at least not alone. As she was about to leave, she noticed a small envelope on the kitchen counter. Trembling, she picked it up. Inside was a photograph, herself asleep on the couch. Her heart lurched. She hadn't taken a picture of herself, and no one else should have had access. The realization hit like ice water. He wasn't just near her apartment, he had been inside. Her phone rang immediately. "I told you, I see everything. Don't bother running. I'll find you." Emily sank to the floor, phone trembling in her hand. She finally understood. This wasn't just a stalker. This was a predator, and every step she had taken, every precaution was already anticipated. The next morning, Emily contacted the police. She tried to recount everything: the calls, the sightings, the note, the photograph. The officer listened politely, but couldn't take immediate action. There was no concrete evidence of the intruder being present at the time of reporting. Frustrated and terrified, Emily realized she had to protect herself until the authorities could act. She stayed with Sarah for a few nights, changed her routines, and slept with lights on. Every shadow in the apartment seemed alive, every sound magnified. On the fourth night, Emily's phone rang one last time before sleep. She answered hesitantly. "You can't hide forever, Emily," the voice said, soft, almost intimate. "I'm closer than you think."
She dropped the phone, her breath caught in her throat. The apartment felt impossibly quiet now, but somehow more alive. Every instinct screamed at her. He wasn't just stalking her from outside anymore. He was inside her life. He had been watching, waiting, learning. Emily lay awake the entire night, too afraid to close her eyes, knowing with terrifying certainty that the stalker's game was just beginning. And deep down, she feared the worst, that tonight or soon she wouldn't be able to run or hide anymore.
Emily Parker had stopped sleeping. Nights had become a blur of fear and vigilance. She stayed at Sarah's apartment as often as possible, but even there, the lingering paranoia clung to her like a second skin. Every phone call, every shadow, every unexpected sound triggered panic. Yet, the unknown caller persisted, relentless, precise, terrifying. On a particularly stormy evening, Emily returned to her apartment. The wind rattled the windows and rain slicked the streets below. Her bags were heavy with groceries, but she barely noticed. Her mind was elsewhere, on the calls, the photographs, the creeping sense that he wasn't just following her anymore. He was inside her life. She locked the door, checked the peephole, and set her small surveillance cameras in the corners of the apartment. Each camera was angled carefully, covering every entry point. She tried to calm herself, forcing deep breaths. Then the phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello, Emily," the voice said, clear, unmasked, deliberate, not playful this time, not distorted, intimate. Emily's stomach twisted. Who is this?" "You know me," the voice said softly, "and I know you. Every thought, every fear, every little secret you try to hide." A cold shiver ran down her spine. The realization hit her like a freight train. This wasn't someone outside the building anymore. He had been inside her apartment more than once. Emily moved quickly, setting her phone down and checking every corner. Nothing appeared out of place, yet the air felt charged, heavy. Then she noticed it, the slight scuff mark on the wooden floor near the kitchen, a door that she swore she had locked, ajar. Her heart thumped violently. Someone was inside. She ducked into the hallway and crouched behind the couch, holding her baseball bat close. The room was eerily silent, except for the faint hum of the refrigerator. And then, a creak. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, measured. Emily's breath caught. She could feel him moving through her apartment. The shadows shifted unnaturally as he passed beneath the dim glow of the ceiling light. "You're clever, hiding like that," the voice said from the living room, calm, almost affectionate. "But cleverness won't save you." Emily froze. Her mind raced. The stalker wasn't just inside her apartment. He knew she was hiding. He had anticipated her every move. She wanted to scream, but even the thought of sound seemed dangerous. She remembered the cameras. Quietly, she pulled her phone from her pocket and began recording, hoping to catch him. Every step he took was methodical, almost choreographed. He moved through the apartment as if he owned it, speaking softly. "You think you're safe here, that you can control things, but I've been here before, watching, learning, waiting." Emily realized with a surge of panic that he knew more about her than anyone should. Her childhood memories, her private fears, the way she slept. He had been observing for weeks, maybe months. The stalker paused in front of the window, peering out at the storm. "I like watching you when you don't know I'm there," he whispered. Then, without warning, he turned toward her hiding spot. Emily's blood ran cold. Her grip tightened on the bat. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but the hallway was open, and the only exit was past him.
Time slowed. She considered her options. The door to the bedroom was open. She could try to slip in and lock it, but he might hear. The bathroom was closer, but it had only one exit. Her eyes darted around, looking for a weapon, a plan, anything. He took a step closer. Emily, the voice was a whisper now, but deliberate, measured. Don't make me angry. You'd never survive that. She swallowed hard. Her heart was a drum in her chest. Then she noticed the emergency call button on her phone. Slowly, carefully, she activated it, putting her phone on speaker and whispering into it. "Please, police, he's in my apartment." The stalker stopped. Something in his expression changed. Emily realized he could hear the faint clicks and beeps from her phone. His eyes narrowed. "You think they can save you?" His voice said, low and menacing. "No one can protect you, not from me." Emily weighed her options in milliseconds. She had to act. The stalker was advancing. His calm, measured steps filled the space, each one echoing like a drumbeat of terror. She gripped the bat tighter, backing slowly toward the bathroom, every nerve screaming in terror. He paused, sensing her movement. "Going somewhere?" he asked, almost amused. In a surge of courage, Emily darted into the bathroom, slamming the door behind her and locking it behind her. Her chest heaved, but she could hear him outside, moving around the apartment. She whispered into her phone again, guiding the police through the apartment, through the corridors, as the stalker tried to evade capture. Lights flashed outside the windows. He realized the situation had changed. Panic, subtle but sharp, flickered across his face. Emily took the opportunity to escape from her bathroom, pushing past him and locking the door behind her. Within moments, officers stormed the apartment. The stalker realized he was trapped, but not before he lunged towards Emily, a final, desperate attempt. He was restrained, handcuffed, and led away, his calm demeanor replaced by a grim, furious glare. Emily collapsed onto the sofa, trembling, shaking, sobbing. Her body felt weak, her mind exhausted, but she was alive, and she knew, even as the officers escorted the man out, that this encounter had changed her forever. As they questioned her, Emily learned who he was, a man she had met years ago, briefly in a professional setting. Obsessed, meticulous, and dangerous, he had tracked her for months, gathering every detail, preparing for this moment. The apartment, once a safe haven, had become a trap. She realized the danger wasn't over. Trauma lingered, fear lingered. But for now, she had survived, and she knew she had to rebuild her sense of safety, piece by piece.
Emily Parker sat on the sofa, trembling, her hands still shaking from the adrenaline. The police had just apprehended the man who had invaded her apartment, and yet her body wouldn't stop quivering. She felt hollow, drained, but alive, the only thought that kept her conscious. Detectives swarmed the apartment, taking notes, photographing rooms, inspecting the subtle details that Emily hadn't even noticed until now. A faint fingerprint smudge on the kitchen counter, a slight depression in her couch cushions where he had crouched, the small scratches on her door frame where he had tried the lock. Every tiny mark whispered how carefully, how methodically he had tracked her life. Detective Harris, a tall man with gray at his temples and sharp eyes, crouched near her. "Emily," he said gently, "we need you to tell us everything you can remember. Every call, every sighting. It's important we build the case." She nodded numbly. Her voice was thin, almost foreign. He knew everything about me, every little thing, every habit, every thought. I don't understand how he got all this information. I never saw him in months, but he knew me." Harris scribbled notes furiously. "It's not uncommon for someone obsessed. He probably tracked you online, watched your routines, maybe even hacked devices. But Emily, you were lucky he didn't harm you." Emily closed her eyes, her mind flashing back to the horror of the previous night, the sound of his slow, deliberate footsteps, the way he whispered secrets only she knew, the cold, unnerving calm in his voice as he stepped closer. It was a memory burned into her mind. A few hours later, the detectives returned with a file. Emily opened it slowly, hands trembling. Inside were photos of him, stalking her from afar, sitting in cafes she frequented, even taking pictures outside her apartment. Each photo made her stomach turn. The final page was the most chilling, a photo of her asleep on the sofa, taken weeks ago. He had been inside her apartment, watching her sleep, anticipating her movements. Emily gasped. She had known it deep down, but seeing it confirmed was worse than any fear. Harris spoke softly. He admitted to breaking into your apartment multiple times. He said he wanted to know you better. He was obsessed, planning for weeks, maybe months. Emily, you survived because you were cautious and because you reacted quickly. Most people don't get that chance. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I can't believe someone could be that careful, that patient, that cruel. Harris put a reassuring hand on her shoulder. The important thing is he's caught. He can't touch you anymore, and we'll make sure of it. Charges, investigation, everything. But even as the legal reality sank in, Emily felt a lingering unease. Something in her gut told her that trauma didn't leave overnight. She would move, change routines, lock doors with more vigilance than ever before. Her sense of safety had been shattered. Over the next few weeks, Emily stayed with Sarah, trying to regain some normalcy. Police officers returned occasionally to check on her, reassuring her that he had been placed under strict surveillance. She received counseling to cope with the intense anxiety, the panic attacks, the nightmares that replayed the stalker's soft, taunting voice. Yet even as she started to breathe again, her instincts screamed caution. She began installing advanced security systems, additional cameras, and even motion sensors. The idea of being alone in an apartment that once felt safe now seemed impossible. One afternoon, Emily received a call from Detective Harris. "We've been digging into his background," he said. "He's been obsessed with multiple women before, but you were the one he fixated on. He had no criminal record before, just patterns of stalking, minor break-ins, obsessive behaviors. But Emily, you were lucky he didn't harm you." Emily closed her eyes, her mind flashing back to the horror of the previous night, the sound of his slow, deliberate footsteps, the way he whispered secrets only she knew, the cold, unnerving calm in his voice as he stepped closer. It was a memory burned into her mind. Weeks later, Emily decided to return to her apartment. The city outside seemed deceptively calm, the hum of traffic masking the fear that still lingered within her. She walked past familiar streets, feeling eyes on her, or perhaps imagining them. Every shadow felt like a potential threat. Inside her apartment, she checked every lock, every window, every camera. Nothing seemed out of place. Yet as she unpacked groceries, her phone vibrated. She jumped, heart hammering. A text message appeared from an unknown number. "I'll see you soon." Her stomach dropped. Her first instinct was to call the police, but she hesitated. Could it be him? Could he have found a way to contact her even now? She realized something chilling. Even though he had been caught, part of him lingered in her mind. Fear, vigilance, paranoia. These were no longer just emotions, they were her constant companions. She had survived physically, but emotionally, the terror had left its mark. Emily took a deep breath, steeling herself. She locked her doors, checked the cameras, and for the first time in weeks tried to sit calmly. She would rebuild her life piece by piece. She would regain control. But somewhere deep inside, she knew that shadows never truly disappear. The memory of him, the predator who had invaded her home and life, would always be with her. And in the quiet of the night, as she finally sat alone, the faintest creak from the corner of the room made her flinch. She shook her head, telling herself it was nothing, yet the tiny seed of unease remained, a reminder that the world could be unpredictable, and that sometimes survival wasn't enough to make fear vanish entirely. Emily Parker had survived the nightmare. She had lived through terror no one should ever face. And while the stalker was gone, the echo of his obsession remained, a silent whisper in the dark, a warning that danger could always be closer than she thought.